to another episode of Pretty Walks and Ugly Talks. Joining me today is my sweet friend Riley.
Hi.
I'm so excited for you to be here.
I'm excited too. It's just, I feel like we have known each other for like not a ton of time, but a long time. Like a depth of friendship versus a length of friendship.
I love that. That is so sweet, and I agree.
Yes.
It feels, a few of my other guests I've had before, I've either met through someone and then we built that relationship, or I've known them, but then we reunited for the podcast, and it's like, I feel like this is my first one that I'm like, this is my homegirl.
Yeah. Yes. It's like not a business relationship. It's actually like friendship.
Yeah, so, I love it. And I trust Riley with my life, obviously, because she handles what you're looking at.
Yes.
So, my face angel.
I'm your face girl.
We actually met through our now husbands. I don't know if I was married when I met you.
I don't know if I was married when I met you.
You weren't. You guys had just started dating.
Yeah.
I remember you walked into Kilroy's, and I was like, because Brianna was like, oh, Graham's bringing his girlfriend. And I was like, okay. Because I had known Graham for a few years before that. And she walks in with this luscious hair, and I was like, are you kidding? Where do you even find someone like that? And you're sweet, but you're also sarcastic and like down to, like, you're down to earth. And I was like, well, this isn't going to be good for them.
It's funny. Yes. Well, you find those people on the south side of Indy. You know, we're scattered around.
I like when they come my way.
Yes. Yeah. Slowly crawled up north. So
I'm glad you did.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk about what you do and how you got into it and how you started. So let's have it.
Okay. So I have always really loved kind of aesthetics, even growing up. Like, I remember in high school, they had us do like career training and all these tests, and I knew I wanted to be in medicine, and they actually like had me shadow a facial plastic surgeon like back in the day. Yeah. So like I did all these things, and they had connections, and so they were like, okay, your key components that you thrive in are like medicine and harmony and aesthetics. And I was like, okay, cool. Long story short,
that makes a lot of sense, actually.
I know, it does. I know it's funny how things kind of come to fruition later in life.
Yeah.
So I went to IU for undergrad. I did my PA school at Butler, so I'm a physician assistant. I graduated and became certified in 2016, and then I started working in the primary care realm, and it's overwhelming when you first start that type of job. There's so much like practical application, but I knew I was missing something. I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm a little overwhelmed, but my heart's still not 100%.
Okay.
So then in 2018, I did a course on neurotoxin. We always call it Botox. That's kind of like one of the brand names, but neurotoxin. And I took my mom up to Chicago, and I was like, you're going to be my model. I want to do aesthetics. And she was like, okay. This is my mom, who's like never, like at that time, she like rarely got pedicures. Like she didn't do much for herself. She was a very selfless mom. And so in 2018, I got certified, and I was ready to kind of get things going, and I was looking into building my own business. I met my now husband, and I moved, and so I was like, it's not really quite time for me yet. Yeah. COVID happened, bloody blah. So then finally in 2021, I was able to start practicing in aesthetics. And it has just been like the perfect harmony of everything that I talked about in high school, that like all those personality tests, you like medicine, you like harmony, and you like aesthetics. That is like the perfect way to describe what I do now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I work and I have my own company. It's called RJS Aesthetics, which is just my initials. I went off on my own starting in June, and I joked that like if I would have created a different name, like hot pink lip aesthetics, or like something weird, like you guys just know me, I'm so down to earth, that you would have been like, what is this name?
Correct.
So for me, just having it as my initials, also like my nickname is RJ, it just worked. So I started that, you know, after working elsewhere for about 2.5 years. I started on my own. So my company, I do neurotoxin, again, kind of like that broad name, generic name for like Botox, Dysport, Jeuveau, Xeomin, all those.
So Botox is like the general name, and then all these fall underneath?
So neurotoxin is the general name. Okay. And it's like that type of medicine, that class of medicine, essentially. Okay. Botox is just kind of like the Coke or the Kleenex, where we attribute all of the medications in that. We call them all the same thing essentially, but they're not. Like Botox brand is Botox brand.
Okay.
Dysport is made by a different manufacturer. It's the same type of medicine, that neurotoxin, but it's a little bit different.
Okay.
So think about it as like Coke versus Pepsi.
Okay,
Like
that makes sense.
even if it's a Pepsi, we sometimes still call it Coke or something.
Yeah.
But they're two different products.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I do that. And those are like our muscle freezers, take care of all of our wrinkles. Wrinkle relaxers is another way to say it. I do fillers. I do skin pin microneedling. So microneedling for face. And then I also have some really awesome products there. So I think that in aesthetics, it can get really overwhelming with all of the options. And so a way that I like to describe my company is that I have specifically curated what I feel like most of my clients and patients need. The wrinkle relaxers, the fillers, and the microneedling, and then the skincare.
Yeah.
I don't have crazy fancy lasers that like I can get you to somebody that has them, but like I just don't really feel like my patients need it. So I didn't want to get that and muddy the water. So my patients know that I'm going to be somebody that gives it like it is.
I was just getting ready to say that. Like, that was my number one thing. Like, I knew we knew each other, but it was like, I'm not going to, I need you to tell me what I actually need, if I actually need it.
Yeah.
And I need to feel comfortable having that conversation with you. And that's like the number one thing that you did initially, and you continuously do it every single time.
Yeah, and I think that that's honestly the biggest compliment that I could get. Like,
Okay.
obviously I want to do good work and I know I do good work. I have
Yes.
great patients. I have a huge clientele that come to me, for their repeat treatments. But for me, what I want, and the reason I kind of branched off on my own, is because I want to be approachable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that aesthetics can be so intimidating.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, okay, what is a unit versus a syringe versus X, Y, and Z? And like, if you go to an aesthetic provider who is, although my hair's curled now, it's never curled in my office. It's like
Same.
thrown up in probably an off-center messy bun. But it's like, you don't want to go somewhere where they're like prim and proper, their face doesn't move, they've got their lipstick, everything is like sucked
It's intimidating
perfect.
enough that when you walk in
Yes.
there, you don't want to be like, oh, I really do need this done because
Yes.
I don't look anything like this.
Totally. Or you're also like, how do I ask someone who obviously is an expert at this because their face does not move? How do I ask someone what I need, or what if I say the wrong thing? Like, it can
Right.
be so intimidating. So for me, I hope to foster just kind of like that open environment where, like, number one, I am a mom, I'm a business owner, I am a busy person, and so I'm in scrubs, pretty much no makeup, and my hair up every day when my patients see me.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that I think fosters already, it breaks that wall down of like intimidation factor.
Yeah, I agree.
And if someone's like, I don't really know, and I'm like, but you shouldn't know. That's not
Right.
your,
That's why you're here.
if you're a CPA, I'm not going to come to you and be like, I don't really know how to do my taxes. Like, yeah, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to pay you to do my taxes.
Right.
So I think that I just really want to foster that open environment with patients, and I feel like most of my patients would agree that they
Yeah.
feel so comfortable coming into my studio.
100%.
And it's just, we kind of like shoot the shit about what their family's doing, and, work drama or funny stories or things that then it makes it even more personable. It's not like, hey, come in, sit in my chair for 5 minutes, and we stick some needles in your face and get
Right.
out. Like, I have 30 minutes with patients, and I think that makes a big difference too.
Yeah. Sometimes it bleeds into like an hour, like I'm there.
I schedule extra time for certain patients that I know we need to maybe catch up a little bit.
I think part of the other thing is you don't sell things that somebody doesn't need.
Yeah.
And that's a huge deal, especially in this world. I mean, you're not just in it to make money off of it and be like, oh yeah, you definitely need 50 units when really they're fine with 30.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did say that right. So if we're talking about like neurotoxin, I think that that's another thing that also brings that validity and maybe even trust between
Yeah.
like myself and my patients. Because
100%.
if you don't need something, I'm not going to make you do it. And like,
Right.
I'm also really open about having maybe difficult conversations. Like, okay, if this is truly your outcome, like, I'm going to tell you this is what you need. And like, here's the price to expect. So if we can't do that today, you know what the price is going to be. So maybe
Right.
we work to it in the future. Or like, I think I've talked to you about the biggest pet peeve of mine is like the aesthetic industry and that tipping. Like, any of my new patients, I'm like, hey, let me just clarify this before you have to tap your card. Your total is your total is your total. I'm not asking for a tip. Gratuity is something that we give to like our hair person or our person that does our pedicures, our massage. This is medicine. This is truly, I am prescribing medicine, although it's aesthetic and, you know, we're taking your wrinkles away, or we are working on your lips or balancing your facial, you know, facial anatomy. That's still medicine. So like, just being really honest with patients about like, I know it's an investment and I don't need you to tip on top of that. Like,
Right.
I'm like, I'm not eating tuna out of a can for every meal because you didn't give me a tip on this. But truly, like, I hope that I am really open and outspoken and trustworthy for patients, and there's no way to be like that unless you give them upfront information.
I agree. And I think it's a totally different experience. I've been plenty of places for Botox.
Yeah.
I always say the wrong thing.
It's okay.
Some of the words are too long for me, and I just can't
Yeah,
remember.
you can call it tox.
Tox.
That's kind of like the industry
That's in.
slang, if you will.
Okay.
Because, sidebar, Botox is owned by Allergan, and they got wind years ago that everybody was kind of saying Botox, and even people were promoting, hey, Botox for X amount of dollars per unit, but it wasn't their brand.
Okay.
It was kind of other brands. So now Allergan, that parent company, is really intense. And like, even there was an Instagram, like a really popular injector, and her Instagram handle was Botox Bunny, and she didn't always use Botox, and so she has had to change it to Injector Bunny.
Okay.
So anywho, we just call it Tox, T-O-X.
Got it.
So if you hear the word tox, and that's kind of just like our injector slang of like any of those options.
Okay.
Botox, Dysport, Jeuveau, Xeomin,
Okay.
all those. So
Yeah, that's a lot to remember, but that's
it
why
is. That's why
you've
I'm
got it.
here. Yeah, so tox. Your experience at
Tox.
other tox places has
yes,
been different.
very different. And I just feel like you, and I'm not just saying this because you're here and you're my friend. So I've said this from the first time I went to see you. It's a totally different experience. And I know that's what you just were saying, but I think saying it as a client is a totally different perspective. It really is it's an experience that you provide, and it is a safe place, and not just for your face or your finances or any of that stuff. It's like a little therapy chair, and I love it.
Yeah, I love that you love it. And that's true. Like, I just think that I have that primary care background, and so I just have kind of like that altruistic, like, I truly am genuinely interested in my patients. Like,
Right.
something that I love about what I do is, you know, my moms that come in and they're finally like investing in themselves, because we know as moms, like, things hit the fan for years, and our appearance and our self-confidence is kind of put on the back burner.
Yeah.
So I love having those patients come in, or like my brides, like, they come in and I'm like, okay, what's the newest update? Like, what kind of flowers did you choose? Show me a picture of your dress. Oh my gosh.
And they love that someone cares, and it's not just someone that they're giving information to, like they are during that whole process of planning.
Totally. Yeah.
Because that process is.
Oh.
People that do that for a living, I'm like,
Are
you okay?
Could never. I could never.
Are you okay?
I don't have the mental capacity for things like that. I should have just we should just like eloped. But because I had a COVID wedding, I pretty much did elope. It was like 20 people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like my room is a safe place, and everybody knows that it's like Vegas. What happens here stays here, and I have no judgment. I'm like, girl, I'm actually very jealous of X, Y, and Z that you just told me. So you do you.
Right.
Yeah, and I love that. I can just kind of foster that environment of not only like feeling good about ourselves internally and like having good conversations, but also externally too.
Right. You need all of it. All of it. Especially as moms.
Oh, I know, especially as moms.
So I feel like people are not, like we were just saying, like, it's a scary thing to ask these questions. There's information all over, and it's not necessarily accurate. What, so I just pulled a couple of questions that I feel
Yeah.
like I've had or we've talked about or that somebody mentioned to me. So what are the benefits of tox?
Tox.
I got it.
She's got the industry slang, people. She is now an expert.
Just come to me now, Riley.
Yes. Actually, come to me.
Yes, please do.
Yes. So, yeah, so many benefits. And, like, this is such a good question because it can be both, we can have, like, therapeutic benefits, and then we can also have aesthetic benefits. So, like, let's talk therapeutic. That's, like, the true, like, medical things. So, tox can help with headaches.
Yes.
I have some patients that come to me, and just by treating some of their, like, forehead muscle, that, like, consistent tension that they have just kind of goes away. We can also treat the masseters, which are kind of a hot topic on social media right now. I feel like a lot of people talk about it in like a facial slimming way, because these big, if you clench your jaw and you can feel these big muscles here, if we stop them from contracting as heavily, then they do kind of shrink, and then that jawline can get a little bit thinner. But also, if you clench, if you grind, if you have headaches from this area, tox in that area can also be super helpful.
Okay.
So there's like medical benefits, but from the aesthetic benefit realm, obviously tox is a medicine that we inject, and it's one that lessens that muscle contraction. So then if you have wrinkles because your forehead muscle is raising up and creating these waves, you don't do that anymore because that forehead muscle can't raise up. So it stops those wrinkles. It's not permanent. It is something that I feel like patients are actually pretty well educated about this.
Okay.
But the treatment is 90 days at the least. So the soonest I want to see a patient back in my chair is in 3 months.
So you're saying it's something that you didn't love. It's very short-lived.
Totally.
Not very short-lived, but
yeah.
Versus fearing it being permanent, it is short-lived.
For sure. It's like a 3-month thing. So, it kicks in after 2 weeks fully, and then like stays stable. And then, as we're getting a little closer to that 3-month mark, it kind of starts to fizzle out, and you might get back to baseline. So for my patients that are like, I want to try it, maybe they're like, I didn't love it, it's not permanent.
Right.
Sidebar, I've never had a patient that has ever told me they didn't love it. So
I can't imagine.
No, so anywho, your muscles, they decrease their contraction, so then that means that our wrinkles go away. We can still look very natural. We can still have facial expressions. We don't have to be plastic. That's kind of how many units or that dose that we do. But in addition to that, it also, from like more of a in-depth perspective of the skin, it helps with sweating. So it also kind of paralyzes that little muscle that squeezes out our sweat. So you're going to sweat less in the areas that have been treated.
Okay, that's something I've never thought about with that. If I look back, I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I always know when it's time for my next treatment, and it's funny because even though I have access to it and I'm, injecting patients every day, I'm usually the last person that I treat because I'm just like busy. So I personally usually go like every 5 months, and I'm like, oh man, I am sweating again during my workouts. So I
that makes sense.
Instantly tell a difference.
There you go, Dylan. That's what you need.
Yeah, less sweating. And then honestly, it also helps with oil production too. Okay. So kind of same thing as that sweat gland. There's also a little muscle by the oil gland that, like, if we have a medicine that makes the muscles not contract, that muscle doesn't squirt out the oil anymore. So smooth, glowing. So less wrinkles, less sweating, less oil production, which then from like kind of an outside aesthetic perspective, you look smoother, your makeup goes on better.
The makeup thing is so, not that the rest isn't accurate, but that is a big one for me.
It's huge.
I notice I'm using less and
makeup,
it just glides on.
Yeah, and it looks less textured and bumpy, and just kind of like those fine lines kind of go away. But speaking of sweating, I actually have a couple dudes that come to me. Yeah, because I can dose the medication and the injections to be less, I don't want to say that I dilute it, because everyone kind of talks about, oh, I got a bad Botox job or a bad tox job. I think my injector diluted it. Well, yeah, all of these medicines, they come as powder. So
Right.
we physically
So
do
they-
have to put liquid in there.
Correct.
But that ratio, that's kind of what I call it, the ratio of like powder to liquid. That is something that like you can kind of play with, and everybody has their secret sauce. So
Okay.
like for men that are really just more worried about their sweating and they're like, I don't really care about wrinkles, it's more so sweating, I can kind of make my secret sauce a little bit more dilute, and then it doesn't have as much muscle involvement, but mostly sweating involvement.
Huh.
I know, right?
Well, first of all, I didn't know it came in a powder form.
Yeah. So,
I had no idea.
So all
I mean,
of
again, why would I?
I know. All of the medications, they all come in like their little glass vials, and then there's powder on the bottom. And that's kind of the actual physical medication. And then we have to add, the fancy medical word is called a diluent, but something to dilute it so that then we can inject, because we can't inject powder into somebody's face.
You can't.
Yeah, so, yeah. So
Alright.
that's kind of my favorite thing about Tox, is that it has so many different benefits.
Yeah.
Also, if you think about it, you know, if you have a piece of paper that's smooth and you crinkle it up, and over time you just keep crinkling it, those crinkles are going to get really deep. So think about that same thing in our face. If you know, have these wrinkles and you are interested in stopping them, you do kind of have to start a little bit earlier.
I was just going to say preventative, because a lot of people are like, you don't need it. And it's like, well, it's not about needing it. It's about not needing it at some point. Like, not at some point, but the sooner you do it, the less you have to do.
Totally. And also, like, the sooner you do it, the better results-ish. You know, if someone comes to me, and I have patients that have come to me in their 50s, and they're like, I've never done it before, I have these really deep set wrinkles, like, can we work on them? And I'm like, yeah, we can. It's gonna take multiple treatments. You know, that's a deep set wrinkle that it's gonna take a lot of time for that to smooth out. We'll get there, but it's gonna take some time. Versus somebody that's like, you know, late 20s, early 30s, and they don't have the static wrinkles, or where like they're just wrinkled. You know, dynamic wrinkles are when we're moving our face. Static is when they're just there, even without us moving.
Okay.
So they have dynamic wrinkles. Yeah, you raise your eyebrows in your late 20s and you do have some forehead wrinkles.
Right.
That's like a good time to start treating, because those wrinkles haven't set in yet.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about filler, because I know that that's a scary one.
Yeah.
Even for me, and I've done it.
Yeah. And I totally appreciate when a patient is like, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, thank you. Because now you actually realize that this is, you know, a medical procedure. You don't want to go to somebody off Groupon, like all of these things that you're like,
Please don't do that.
Please don't. Yeah, so filler is such a hot topic. And
I think that's the biggest one when it comes to the misconception of how you're going to look.
Totally, yes. And so I think that, again, everybody has a different perspective of beauty. So you walk into your aesthetic place and they look overfilled. Their perception of beauty is maybe different than mine, you know? Like, I've had a little bit of filler, but I think that, like, a little sprinkled over time is so effective, because you look awake, you look refreshed, but people can't pinpoint why or how.
Correct.
It's not like they're like, oh, you got your cheeks done, I can tell. No, we just want them to be like, something looks different, but it looks really good.
Has your kid been sleeping?
I know. Like,
You
what,
look
like,
great.
did you shower? Like, what, how are you better? You know, everyone's like, oh, you look so good today. And you're like, oh, thanks, I showered.
I say that every single time.
All the time. It's like, oh, well, I actually ran a curler through my hair. So filler is something that most of our filler looks like hair gel. Okay.
Oh.
So it looks like that hair gel consistency. It's like a gummy kind of jelly consistency. Yeah, like a thick. The thickness, or that like viscosity, ranges. So a filler that I'm going to put maybe in someone's cheeks to like help mimic maybe some of their fat loss here, or like help enhance their bone structure, that's going to be more of a like a thick viscous filler. You know? That same filler, we're not going to be putting that in your lips. We want lips to be like soft, supple, like so across the board there's all different types of brands of filler, viscosities, or what we in medicine call G prime. It's like a it's a way that they've kind of quantified how viscous and stretchy and all the stuff this filler is.
Okay.
So yeah, they all look like a clear hair gel though, and you inject it, and it's instantaneous. Not like our tox, where that takes about 2 weeks to kind of like kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Our filler, it's instant. Like,
okay.
You inject the filler, and that physical like hair gel consistency kind of like replumps the cheek or plumps the lips.
Mm-hmm.
Swelling is kind of like that big thing, and like
the healing process.
Lips are probably the worst to heal.
Yes.
Lips are also probably the most painful. There's different ways and modalities that we can help with pain though. Topical numbing, I can do like dental block numbing. Some people are just psychos and they're like, ice is fine, and I'm like, okay. So I know. Could you imagine?
No, because you could barely get me numb when you eat it.
I know.
I was like I can still feel it. She's like,
yeah.
You can feel that? I'm like,
yeah. So different ways to kind of help with the pain control, but lips are definitely going to be the worst.
Like they are. It's just a matter what do you want and what don't you want.
Yeah, pain-wise. And then also like if you think about the real estate in the lip area, like you're doing kind of a lot of pokes and you're putting extra filler in there that like just the swelling is kind of contained to just the lips.
Yeah.
Versus like in the cheeks, swelling can kind of dissipate elsewhere.
Places, yeah.
So from a healing standpoint, lips are the worst for sure. Like a solid week or two. But really like the big swelling and bruising is probably just for the first like couple days.
Yeah.
I would say like
mine was more of the, which is why I haven't been back. I'm like, I need 2 weeks to not see anyone.
Yeah.
You truly do. And I didn't take that serious. And I was like out to lunch and my friends are like, maybe in a couple more days?
Yeah.
Like, go home. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
I would say like
it's like the chapping part of it.
Yes. So
that's
the
what it was
swelling,
for me.
Yep, the swelling is definitely bad like the first probably like 1 to 3 days. And I always tell my patients they're going to have a little bit of an oh shit moment when they look in the mirror afterwards and they're going to be like,
what
oh my God, Riley told me this was going to be natural. This doesn't look what I was expecting it to be. Well, yeah, because you're swollen. So I would say like 20 to 30% more swollen right off the needle in my office than actually it's going to settle like 20 to 30% less. So I'm like, you might have a little jump scare, but know that it's going to go down. So like that heavy swelling for the first like 1 to 3 days, and then I feel like the bruising kind of pops in, which like we can cover with some lipstick and stuff. Yeah. But then you're totally right. That skin has kind of stretched a little bit, and so it kind of chaps and gets a little flaky. So yeah, I would say like around friends, like you could probably wait like 7 days. But like if you have like a big presentation,
don't just wait.
Give it about 3 days.
Yeah.
3 to 5. 3 to 5 business days. But yeah, so filler, and I think that like the biggest concern for filler is that we see on TikTok, we see on social media, all of these like scary side effects called vascular occlusions.
Okay.
And so quick summary of what that is that this is a hair gel consistency. Our tox is water. It's essentially like a water. It's not going to block or occlude anything. This filler is like a thicker consistency. So if you get that needle in a blood vessel and you inject in that blood vessel, that filler is going to occlude or block off that blood vessel, and then that creates kind of an emergency situation. So there is medicine to reverse those emergency situations. Every provider should have an ample amount of that at their disposal, you know, on hand. And then community over competition in the aesthetic realm is kind of my perspective. So I have plenty of fellow injectors that are in like the Carmel area or even like Southside. I have so many that, you know, we build each other up and we're hype girls. And I know that if in an emergency, they could help me.
Yeah.
So anywho, the biggest side effect is going to be, or concern is going to be that occlusion.
And does that happen immediately or does that take time for it to stuff to set in before that happens?
It can be both, because like you could inject like directly into a vessel, or it can take some time too. So that's why like every patient of mine has the option, if they want, to take one of my little care cards, and it has like, hey, after Botox or your neurotoxin, here's what you don't want to do for the next like couple days, or, you know, after your filler treatment, here's what you'll kind of expect with swelling and bruising, but here's when I need you to contact me immediately. And it has my cell on there, and everybody knows like my Instagram handle, and I, you know, it can be instantaneous so that I could potentially catch it while I'm in
As
the
you're doing
clinic.
it.
Yep, for
Okay.
sure. But also, it could be kind of a slow thing over time where you're like, wait a second, maybe this hurts more than normal, or you notice a different color, and
Yeah.
then that's when I have my patients like reach out to me if they needed to.
Okay.
But yeah, and then if it is in my clinic, hopefully it's something that I've kind of already caught, because there are injection techniques to really mitigate that risk. Like,
Okay.
we know anatomy. Like, there's anatomy landmarks and different points that you don't want to inject. So if you avoid those, then it's better. You know, if you avoid those landmarks, then you don't necessarily have the risk of that VO or vascular occlusion.
Okay.
And then, yeah, when I like inject, I kind of like pull the plunger back, and then I can
Yeah.
make sure that I'm not in a vessel. So
Gotcha.
anywho, that's like a lot of shop talk, but that's kind of like the biggest side effect that we are worried
But that's
about.
important
Totally.
to know about, and
Yes.
that
And-
way, if it does come later, or if it's something that you've heard about and you're scared about, you know, now you know that there's a
Yeah, there's a
There's a-
reversal agent,
yes.
but then also like you have to be an advocate for yourself. Like, I am
100%.
never going to be upset, annoyed, bothered, insert any emotion. I'm not going to think of my patients any differently if they reach out and they're like, hey, is this normal? And I'll be like, let me take a look at it. Or, hey, pop in and so I can see it.
Mhm.
I would much rather somebody reach out to me and then I
Yeah.
can be like, oh, you know, it's just a little bruise, like no big deal. No judgment. I always want patients.
well, no kidding, because I mean that's your work walking around, like that's
For
your
sure.
art. So
But it's also your face walking
Right.
around. So, like, I don't want you to have any concerns if it's normal. And so, when you're going to an aesthetic injector, you should also, we talked about trust earlier.
Mhm.
There should be a trust that, like, if something is wrong or you're concerned, you shouldn't feel like you're going to be shamed when you go back.
right.
And, like, I've had patients that have had really honest conversations of, like, you know, I'm a little nervous about my lips and how they look. And I'm like, okay, we're 2 days out. Give me a week at
Yes.
least, and then we'll kind of go through it. And
Right.
like, that's okay. We've all been that person.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we're all human. And so, again, if you're going somewhere and you feel like there could be a potential judgment of you if you are concerned about it, then that's not the place for you.
No, and
No
I mean,
judgments.
There's enough craziness that we have to deal with in the world. Like, make something easier for yourself if you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make yourself more comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in that realm. Like, I can't imagine. Well, I have gone to people where I'm like, is that right? Which is how I ended up in your hands.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And you want to go to somewhere that, like, if you're like, oh, no one's ever done it like X, Y, and Z before, you don't want your instructor to be like, okay, yeah, that's just why I do it. Like, for me, I'm like, oh, well, let me teach you why.
Yes.
Let me teach you why we don't just do the forehead, but we also do in between your eyebrows. Because if no one's ever taught you that, you might not understand the science behind it.
Right.
And let me take 5 minutes out of our appointment,
Yeah.
pause our conversation about your upcoming vacation to Hawaii, tell you why I do it like this, so then you're like, oh, that makes sense.
And I will
Cool.
say that's another thing that you do beyond thoroughly. Like, by like our second or third visit, I was like, save it. I don't know half the words you're saying. I failed anatomy, true story, and I trust you. So just please, I love you, but
Yeah.
I want to talk about your kid and work, and
Yeah.
I know you know what you're doing.
Some people want to know, like, every intricate
especially in the
detail.
beginning, too.
For sure. And I'm like, yeah, I'm your girl. I will explain it to you.
Yeah.
And other people, I'm like, girl, sit down. Let me get things going. How's life? Tell me
Yeah.
about your kid's birthday party. And they're like, I don't need you to explain.
Yeah.
You already have my trust. Like, I don't need you to explain and give me more, like, clout as to why you're good at what you do.
Right.
So.
Well, that's part of building a relationship, though, too.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just being honest.
So we talked about the filler and it being too much, and we can reverse that a little bit, right? Is that
Yeah.
did I say that right?
You're right. Yeah. So there are a couple fillers on the market that are non-reversible,
Okay.
and those are ones that we're just extra cautious with. Like, we'll use a different type of an injection approach, but most of them that are those hair gel consistencies, they're hyaluronic acid. And that's kind of a hot topic now too. Like, everybody uses their hyaluronic acid serum. So
Yeah.
it's that into like a jelly form. And there is a medicine called hyaluronidase or Hylenex. And that is literally just like a watery medicine that if there's an issue, it immediately dissolves it.
Okay, cool. So the water kind of chills the gel out.
Yeah.
In a very layman's terms way to put it.
Yeah. If you think about it, so it's an enzyme, so it breaks down the hyaluronic acid.
Okay.
So yeah, there's like videos out there on TikTok of somebody like putting a glob of filler just like on a mirror.
Okay.
And then they inject this watery medication, it's a liquid water, and that glob of filler just is like just completely dissolves into
That's crazy.
water or like a watery like substance.
So that's another thing I want to make a point on is these things are, I know they're scary. I mean, you're putting a needle in your face. It's terrifying. Yeah. And by choice.
Yeah.
But I want to make it known that there are ways that these can be reversed. None of this is permanent.
Yeah.
And if it makes you feel better and I'll be honest, there's stuff that you've done for me that I'm just happier when I look in the mirror. And that might sound vain to some, but at the end of the day, I'm taking pictures with my kids and I'm making memories and I want to be in those pictures and I don't want to look at them and be like, oh, look at my jawline or look at my wrinkles. And maybe some people aren't like that, but I am.
Yeah. That's actually...
And I want to absorb those moments and not pick myself apart.
Yes, and that's actually the conversation I have with patients when they come to my chair and they do like a consult and they're like, I don't know anything about this industry. I'm ready to maybe dip my toe into it, but like, I don't know what I need. And I'm like, okay, when you look at a picture that you're going to post on Instagram, what are your areas that you're like non-negotiable? These have to look good for me to post this picture. Like, I don't care if Susie and Sally look crazy and their eyes are closed. This is what I worry about for me. It's like that classic picture where like someone has edited themselves and the other two people look awful and you're like, interesting.
I have a few people that are like that.
Yes. So yeah, that's actually kind of my starting conversation is like, I want to take some concern for you that like, maybe you're not as confident about your chin or your cheeks, or you feel like you look aging. And like, we're both moms and my patients, not everybody's a mom, right. I don't have to, I'm not just targeting just moms, but truly like we've done so much for ourselves. We've, had children, we've changed everything from like that hormonal side, like everything changes. And
everything. And it doesn't stop changing, I feel like.
No, it doesn't.
Like a side note, my hair just got super curly in the last 3 months out of nowhere.
I love that for you though.
But
hopefully that makes it.
It's not pretty curly. It's like the underpart's curly and the rest is like frizzy. Like I got electrocuted. But my point is that your body doesn't stop changing after you have these kids.
And so, when a patient comes to me and they're like, I just feel like I look old.
Dull or old.
Old.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, okay, well, let's first acknowledge that we've built a human or more than one human, we've nourished that human, we've run them to soccer practice. Like we have to acknowledge that like this is a chapter of our life that we can be proud of, but we can also change things up so that we feel a little bit more confident. Because you're totally right. When you take a picture with your kids, I want you to look at that and be like, oh my God, what a fun memory at the pumpkin patch. Like, I don't want you to look at it and be like, I have bags under my eyes, I look awful. Like, we deserve to feel as good and as proud of ourselves as we do for our children. Or,
I agree.
If we're not a mom, as we do of our siblings, of our best friends. Like, we should have the confidence and the pride of ourselves. And sometimes that is external. And again, it sounds vain, but it's not, like we want to look good. We are wearing our face all day, every day. So the investment of maybe some tox, maybe some filler, maybe some better skincare products, like that's worth it in the end.
I agree. And that's the other thing that I think people don't know, that there are other options. It's not just injectables. There are other ways to make yourself feel refreshed and youthful and glow in your photos or on your podcast.
On your podcast. I think that's great. And that's actually why I said in the beginning, I have like a really small curated menu, and I have my injectables, I have my tox, I have my fillers, but I also have microneedling. I call it skin pin microneedling just simply because it's that specific brand. It has a better like FDA. It was like one of the first ones approved by FDA, and they just have like really great research that shows like collagen production. But that is a really good segue for my patients that are like, okay, I'm not quite ready for a needle in my face or for like medicine in my face, but I do want to do something maybe for like some fine lines or just like to make my skin have more of a glow. So think of a tattoo gun.
Okay.
Like the me sound, that's actually like exactly what the microneedling sounds like. Because
that seems worse than tox to me. Like that seems more terrifying on my face.
It's not bad. I numb you up, so you have a numbing cream on your face for 20 to 30 minutes. Like, it gets very numb, so it's not uncomfortable at all. But yeah, every patient gets their own little sterile tip of 12 little needles.
Okay.
And it goes onto this little like tattoo gun looking thing. And then we just kind of microneedle. And so essentially, like, if this is our little pen, like, it microneedles and kind of taps into your skin. It creates a good type of damage. So you're going to, like, the Kardashians, I feel like, made it kind of famous years and years ago because they called it, like, the vampire facial.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
So you'll get, like, a little bloody on your face because we're, like, tapping needles in your face.
Yeah.
And you'll get a little bloody, but then that kind of blood recirculates, and I kind of, like, use it to be, like, a glide for that machine.
Okay.
But anywho, that is a great non-injectable, non-medication, but a really good aesthetic procedure. Super minimal downtime, like you're going to be red for like a day or two.
Yeah.
Maybe a little like tight feeling, a little bit of that flaky. But after a day, no one's going to notice that anything is different as in the sense of like, oh, you had a procedure done.
Right.
But after like a 5-day healing process, that skin just like glows. And it's just simply because that top layer has kind of sloughed off, and then those like controlled puncture wounds that we created, it signifies or it kind of creates that signal for your body to make more collagen.
Okay.
Collagen is like, again, a hot word, hot topic. It is a building block. It's going to make that skin a little tighter. It's going to make it look a little bit more glowy. It's not going to look as saggy. So that's an awesome option if people are like, tox ain't for me.
Yeah.
But I'm still interested in dipping my toe.
Right.
Yeah. And that one's good for neck too. We can do that microneedling on our neck. So like these tech neck lines that we all have because we're on our phones too much, that can kind of help alleviate that. Or even sometimes some of that like chest texture of that chest skin too. It can be really helpful there.
Interesting. What else you got? What else can we do?
Yeah.
If we don't want any kind of...
If we don't want like any kind of needle, whether it's like an injectable needle with tox, an injectable needle with filler, or even our little sterile 12 needles for our skin pin microneedling, medical grade skincare. And I think that people think it's like a frou-frou thing, like medical grade. It actually is really amazing. So like it is studied, they do biopsies, they check out like, they do skin staining and biopsies and all of these things like that a dermatologist would do for different skin spots on your body.
Okay.
Like they do that with these products to see like, oh, you know, this layer of the skin got X amount thicker when you use this product 3 times a day, or like thicker in a good way. Like, so anywho, I like the, I carry Skin Better. I personally love this brand. I think that I believe in it so much because it has enough products, but it doesn't have too many.
Okay.
I don't need a 55-step skincare routine.
No, I don't either, and that's what I was going to touch on.
No one has time for that.
And if you do, like, where are you going after you do that 55-step? Because I'm out of time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then, like, truly, if you have that many steps, it's like human nature that you're going to get tired of doing that many steps, and then you're going to stop doing that many steps, and then you're just not going to do it anymore.
Correct.
So
you're worn out.
Yeah. So this brand, Skin Better, it has the perfect amount of different products for different concerns, but it's not overwhelming. It is at a really good price point in the sense of like every pump that you use is that dose. So you don't have to use like 3 pumps of the sunscreen. Nope, 1 pump. That's all you need.
So it also takes the thinking out of it too.
Yes, 1 pump of the moisturizer. That's all you need. So I love that. And then also just like from the product standpoint, it's effective. It freaking works. Like I had really intense pigmentation issues when I was pregnant, and I just still had them. You know, in the summertime I get freckles.
Another change that happens.
Yay, we love it. We love our children. But, you know, I had pigmentation issues. I had acne. I mean, even though I work in aesthetics, I'm not God's favorite. Like, I still have acne. I still have breakouts. Like, it happens. So by adding in, like, 2 products in the morning and 2 products at night, one of which is the same. So literally like 3 tubes of different types of products. Huge difference with my skin after a month. And now I'm like 2 months in, and I'm like a big difference. And I look glowy. My texture is better. My wrinkles under my eyes are better. My hyperpigmentation, so like the brown spots, the red spots that we get from sun exposure and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Significantly improved. So I also think that's a great option too if someone's like, I don't want to do, injectables.
Right.
Then look at skincare, because the investments and the things that you're buying at Sephora, they're just as expensive, and they don't have like the background research. They don't have the medical spin on it. They say they might, but they aren't. As a provider, this is not technically prescription. It's not prescription medication, but you have to have like an MD collaborator in order to sell this medication. So like a place like Sephora can't sell this skincare because it's medical grade and it has science behind it. So I'm like, okay, if you're, buying your Dr. Dennis Gross or like your Peter Jard or whomever, like at Sephora, that money, you might get a little bit of an improvement, but by spending that same amount of money on something that's medical grade and has actual science behind it, you're going to have such a bigger impact on your skin.
Well, my other thing is I feel like when you talk about the brands that don't have the research behind them, it's almost like a branding thing. Like, okay, you need this and then you need this, but if you don't use this with that and that, then you're not going to get this picture. And I'm like, you just spent $600.
Yeah.
Cover up what your issue is, in my opinion.
You give me $600. First of all, that will get you a supreme regimen for me with Skin Better. But, a couple $100, and these products will last you 4-6 months.
Yeah.
And then guess what? You don't have to spend as much money on foundation. Like, I don't remember the last time I purchased foundation. Truly. I mean, I think I actually got some e.l.f. recently at Target.
I love e.l.f.
I do too.
It works.
It's good. And guess what?
Half of my makeup bag is e.l.f.
This lip oil, e.l.f. I got it off of, I had the color from TikTok, and I was like, okay, I need this.
Yeah.
It's like 2% of the cost of the Dior lip oil.
And you can get it because it's at Target. So it's like, I hate going to the mall. I know.
I do too.
Most people aren't going to believe that.
Yeah.
But not for like 1 or 2 things. Like if I have nothing else to do,
let's browse.
Fine.
Yeah.
But I don't want to pop in at Sephora.
I want to be able to get my diapers, my bananas. Not my diapers, my son's diapers. Let me just clarify that. I want to be able to get
Graham's diapers.
I want to get my son's diapers, bananas, dinner, a bottle of wine, and a lip oil in the same place.
Yeah.
And that is Target, and that is e.l.f. But so with
I also want you to bring it out to me.
Oh yes, for sure. And you can add the Starbucks gift, the Starbucks orders on there now.
I kind of feel like a jerk doing that. I've done it one time though, because I was so tight on time, and I was like,
there you go. You don't abuse the privilege, but you know it's there.
Yes.
But yeah, like I recently bought a $7 foundation from Target because my skin tone, skin texture, all of those things are so much improved with all of the different things I do that like I don't have to invest $80 on the like Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk. That like it's beautiful, I love it.
It is beautiful.
But
the e.l.f. does the same.
Yeah, and I don't need that on my face anymore.
Right. So here's a question. So I think you just answered it, but makeup has it doesn't need to be expensive makeup to be also taking care of your face.
Totally. And I actually...
Those go together. Okay.
God, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes.
Sunscreen foundation is a joke. So that is one that it's not a joke. It's going to have some sun protection. But you should be wearing, number one, sunscreen all year round. Yes. I don't care if you listen to Kristen Cavallari. She was wrong with her like sunscreen stuff. But you should be wearing sunscreen on your face all year round. Yep. That not only helps protect your face from like melanomas and things that are skin cancers that are sun exposure created, but also it helps reduce the wrinkles because you're not squinting and it's got that protection. But you should be wearing your sunscreen under your foundation. You should not
Okay.
be relying on your foundation to be your sunscreen.
Okay, so question. I don't usually do foundation in
Yeah.
general, but so I use the Ilia.
Uh-huh.
Is that enough of a sunscreen? So it's like, no? Okay.
Because I think that's one of them that, like, you specifically would have to use a ton of that product.
Okay.
The way that has been chemically formulated, you probably have to use, like, the 3 finger swipes of that amount of makeup. And we're just, like, doing a quick dusting. The Ilia is like a skin tint. It's great.
Yeah.
We like the luminosity. We like just a little bit of coverage, but we don't need a heavy foundation. But yeah, it's fine if you use a foundation with sunscreen. That's no big deal. But that should not be the only sunscreen that you're using.
So what is the sunscreen that you're using for your face? It's not just a regular sunscreen, is it?
Correct. So
Okay.
I personally and this is what I have on right now. I don't wear foundation, and I'm okay if some of my blemishes show. I use the Skin Better, Sun Better. It's a little bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
But it's like a tinted foundation, and it's a mineral foundation. It doesn't look thick and chalky on my face. Gives me a little like glow, a little coverage, and that's all I need. But yes, if you're doing a foundation or a skin tint with some SPF, the SPF you should be using on your face is going to be more of like a facial SPF.
Okay.
And I only say that because like the banana boat that we're going to put on our kids and our, body, that's got, fragrances and just things that if you're in a pinch, I
It's
guess
better
you
than
could put it
nothing.
on your face. But the fragrances and stuff, it's going to be comedogenic, so it's going to kind of like clog your pores and stuff.
Okay,
So
yeah, that makes sense.
there are specially formulated sunscreens for your face.
Okay,
that
because
are
I think
better.
that's a big thing that
Yeah.
we've been kind of tricked into thinking that because I've been using the Ilia for years.
Yep.
And I love it,
Totally.
but it's not enough. Okay, that's
it's
good
not
to know.
enough. Yeah.
Because
You need to be having
I'm really psycho about like protecting.
Yes.
As you know.
I do know. Well, yeah, you have to protect your investment. If you're getting
Correct.
injectables or microneedling or anything like that, it's like, like an analogy is like if you're getting a luxury car and like putting bumper stickers on it. Like,
That's a great example.
if you're paying the money, the hundreds of dollars a couple times a year to protect those, stop those wrinkles, help with your collagen production, balance out that face, why aren't you protecting it every single day?
Mm-hmm.
So the Skin Better that I sell, or any of like I would obviously prefer patients to have like the Skin Better sunscreen.
Right.
But if you're not putting sunscreen on your face or using other good products, you're not protecting the investment and you're not getting its full benefit.
That makes sense. But I feel like I said, a lot of people wouldn't know that.
Yeah, I know.
So.
Now you know.
All right. Now I know. I needed selfishly, some of these were my questions. Okay, what else do we got? Are we okay
We're
on
at
time?
2:14 right now.
Oh, okay. So
we'll
let's
keep
just do
going.
like a little quick kid
Yeah.
talk, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So your little guy, we're gonna switch because I kind of want everyone to fill it in on how cute
Oh my
Riley's
gosh.
little guy is.
Yeah.
I know it's a jump, but it's another huge part of your life. And
Well, yeah,
he's just so cute.
And he's kind of the reason that I did jump to do my own thing. We talked about other reasons earlier, but as a mom, like I have specific time that I want to devote to my son, and I want to be able to kind of be my own boss. And so
Yeah.
that was like another huge reason as to why I kind of created my own company and my own entity. But yeah, my little man, he just turned 2. He just turned 2 yesterday. I got up at the crack of dawn to go get donuts for him. He doesn't like sweets, and so he literally he held 3 of them. He's big into like holding things in each hand. So he had like a long john, a tiger tail, and like a classic donut. And of course I got him like the sprinkles.
Oh yes.
Obviously, because I'm like, oh, he's gonna love these sprinkles.
Yeah.
Like he'll eat this. No, he
Really?
did not. You know what he did? He wanted that donut. He wanted to sit on the couch and watch his little morning show, and then he just like shook that donut, and so there's sprinkles all over my couch. It's not a nice couch.
Well, no, you have a 2-year-old.
Yeah, but there's just like sprinkles all over the
If it
rug.
is, it's not going to be for much longer.
Oh, no. Between a 2-year-old and my husband, who one time fell asleep eating a dilly bar on the couch. We had just gotten the couch, and I was like, what is this stain? And he's like, I may or may not have woken up with a melted dilly bar on my chest. So between
I tell you this all the time when we talk about like our personal lives, like your level of patience and just like, it's like angelic. I'm like, I would have murdered.
It was close, but luckily he was already gone for the day when I texted him what happened.
See, that's different. If he had been there, but yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so yeah, Henry, my son, he just like carried around this like Long John with sprinkles and just like sprinkled the whole house, but didn't eat it. And then, oh, you will die. You're gonna love this. So we're doing his birthday dinner tonight.
Okay.
Guess where we're going?
Are you going to hibachi?
No, that was
okay.
Grams. That was Grams.
I thought that's what you were gonna say because I just recently took the boys to Babachi.
Babachi. No, our next favorite restaurant.
Ours?
Yeah, your family also loves this
Texas
restaurant.
Roadhouse. Yes. Oh, Texas Roadhouse.
We are really hoping that we get like the classic like attention Texas Roadhouse guest.
Yes.
We got a little cowboy
You'll get
in
it.
the house. He will probably freak out.
I'll say, do you think he'll like that?
I don't think so.
But it's good content.
Oh my gosh.
I want to see it.
I know. So I have like waited to post anything on social media about his birthday because I need the Texas Roadhouse content.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he needs his little riblets and little chicken dippers and.
Does he eat like a grown man when you guys go there? Because the boys, I have to get a bigger steak.
Really?
Because I would get the 16-ounce sirloin and share it with them, and I would get 5 bites.
Henry,
maybe?
Yeah,
he's obviously younger, but
he's
still.
2, but he's going through a phase where he like is eating, so like he does love a good hot dog for dinner, and now we have to cook 2 because he's like eating 2 full hot dogs.
Okay.
So I don't know. We haven't been to Texas Roadhouse for a little while. So he'll probably still get the kids meal, but he always like eats off of my plate.
I love going there. Brandon's like, we don't need to go out to dinner, and I'm like, but they will eat
Yeah.
their weight in food, and
sure.
it's like
It's good.
$100 for the entire family to eat and get a glass of wine. Like,
Yeah. And my
also feel free to sponsor.
Yeah. Love you, Texas Roadhouse.
We love you.
My brother and sister-in-law are in town, and they live in Los Angeles. And
Oh, they're gonna.
I told them.
Are they coming?
Yeah. I told them, I was like, so guys, just prepare yourselves. We are doing a birthday dinner on Wednesday night with Henry at Texas Roadhouse. And they were like, oh, hell yeah.
I know. People are kind of sneaky quiet about liking it. And I'm like, what's not to like? The steak's good. It's affordable.
Yeah.
The kids are happy. They can be loud.
I know.
What are you guys doing?
I'm a loud and proud Texas Roadhouse person.
All day.
All day.
All day.
So, yeah, maybe hibachi for number 3.
Yeah, because that might be a lot.
He has like really long curly hair too, so I'm a little concerned. He doesn't quite understand like hot to touch, so a little concerned with like the flames and his hair going up in flames and or him touching the hot grill. So I think at age 3 that would be a better transition.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, for age 2, Texas Roadhouse. All
I love it.
Chicken critters.
I love it. Well, thank you for being here and answering
You're
all of our
welcome.
questions.
Thank
You're gonna have to
you
come
so
back so we
much.
can just talk about other stuff too.
Yeah. Download on our favorite toddler restaurants. But
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm in Carmel.
Yes. Tell everyone where and how they can find you.
Totally. So I'm in Carmel. I'm off of Adams Street. I have my own little suite in the place called a Link Office Suites. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is RJ_the_PA. And then, yeah, I think my Instagram has everything. I also have a website, So a Fish. It's just rjsaesthetics.com. So, yeah. Thanks, girlfriend.
Thank you for being here.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys, for joining us for another episode of Pretty Walks and Ugly Talks. We'll see you next time.